In a small village on the banks of the Nile, life moved slowly and steadily. The inhabitants knew each other well and lived off agriculture and fishing. The village was surrounded by vast green fields and a network of canals and small rivers that fed the crops and brought life to the village. But amidst all this beauty, there was an old story whispered among the people, the story of Al-Nadaha. One dark night, a young man named Hussein was returning home after a long day working in the fields. The sky was overcast and the moon barely peeked through the clouds. Hussein walked by the river, enjoying the quiet that enveloped the place, when he heard a soft voice calling his name. Hussein! Hussein! He stopped and looked around but saw no one. The voice repeated, clearer this time. Hussein, come here. His heartbeat quickened, but curiosity overcame his fear. He followed the voice until he reached the riverbank, where he saw a beautiful woman standing by the water. She wore a long white dress, and her long black hair flowed with the wind. She smiled warmly and extended her hand. "Who are you?" Hussein asked with a trembling voice. "I am Al-Nadaha," the woman replied in a calm tone. Come closer to me." Hussein hesitated for a moment, but the mysterious allure he felt made him take a step towards her. Just as he was about to extend his hand to take hers, he suddenly felt a cold shiver run through his body. He stopped and stepped back. "What do you want from me?" he asked cautiously. Before Al-Nadaha could respond, Hussein heard a voice behind him, calling out forcefully. "Hussein, come back here." It was the voice of his old grandfather, who stood a few meters away, holding an oil lamp. Hussein looked back at the woman, but she had completely disappeared, as if she had never been there. Hussein returned to his grandfather, still feeling confused and scared. His grandfather took his hand and said in a low voice, "You are lucky you didn't follow her further. Al-Nadaha is an evil spirit that seeks to lure people into the river, where the jinn take them, and they never return." Since that night, Hussein's life changed. He lived in constant fear that the voice would call him again. But one night, months after the first incident, it happened again. Hussein was in the fields when he heard the voice again. "Hussein, Hussein." This time the voice was more urgent and alluring. Hussein tried to resist the urge to respond, but he felt an overpowering force pulling him towards the river. When he reached the bank, he found Al-Nadaha again, standing in the same spot. "Come, Hussein," she said softly. "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." But this time Hussein was prepared. He pulled out a charm his grandfather had given him and held it up. Al-Nadaha's features changed rapidly, turning into a frightening creature. She screamed loudly and disappeared into the water. Hussein rushed home, and when he told his grandfather what had happened, he learned that the charm had saved him. His grandfather told him that Al-Nadaha would not bother him as long as he carried the charm with him. But the story did not end there. The next night, Hussein's friend Ahmed, who had gone fishing by the river, disappeared. They searched for him for several days but found no trace of him. Everyone in the village began to believe that Al-Nadaha had taken him. After Ahmed's disappearance, the village lived in a state of panic. No one dared to go near the river at night, and frightening tales of Al-Nadaha spread among everyone. But Hussein was not ready to give in to fear. He decided to face Al-Nadaha one last time and end the nightmare that haunted his village. Hussein equipped himself with the tools he might need, including the charm, and set off to the river on a dark night. He stood at the bank and called out loudly, "Al-Nadaha, show yourself!" At first, the place was silent, but after a few moments, fog appeared over the water, and Al-Nadaha emerged once more. Her features reflected anger and fear this time. "Why do you disturb me again?" she asked angrily. "Where is Ahmed?" Hussein asked boldly. "Bring him back to us." Al-Nadaha laughed eerily and said, "Ahmed will never return. He is now part of the river. But Hussein was not ready to give up. He held the charm up again and began reciting the words his grandfather had taught him. Al-Nadaha began to writhe and scream, as if in great pain. Suddenly a large whirlpool appeared in the water, and Ahmed emerged from it. He was unconscious, but still alive. Hussein pulled him to the shore and looked at Al-Nadaha, who was gradually disappearing into the water. "You will not harm anyone anymore," Hussein said firmly. "This village is no place for you." From that day on, Al-Nadaha never appeared in the village again, and life returned to normal. But Hussein and the villagers never forgot what had happened, and the story was told to future generations as a warning of the dangers that might lurk in the dark.